People often say history is predictable, that the past follows patterns, that human behavior repeats itself. But if you had been standing on a quiet Tennessee hillside in the spring of 1864, watching a barefoot 10-year-old boy stumble out of the woods carrying a battered Union soldier on his back while Confederate scouts searched nearby, you would know history is anything but predictable. This true story began long before anyone realized it would one day reshape the life of an American president and rewrite a forgotten chapter of the Civil War. Samuel Reeves was born in a small log cabin near the Tennessee River. His family owned no slaves, had no wealth, and lived far from politics. But their land sat in one of the most dangerous zones of the war, where Union and Confederate forces constantly crossed paths, where loyalty shifted daily, and where survival depended on silence. Samuel was known for two things. He could run faster than any boy in the county, and he had an unusual habit of asking questions grown-ups didn't want to answer. His father often warned him, "Curiosity is a luxury in times of war, but curiosity is exactly what changed everything." One chilly April morning, Samuel heard a faint groaning sound deep in the woods. At first, he thought it was an animal, but when he followed the noise, he found a bloody Union soldier slumped against a tree, half-conscious, shaking, and missing his rifle. The soldier's name was Private William Haskins, a 23-year-old from Ohio who had been separated from his unit during a surprise Confederate raid. His leg was badly injured, and he hadn't eaten in nearly 2 days. Samuel knew the punishment for helping the enemy could be severe. Tennessee was Confederate territory. But the soldier looked up at him with desperate, pleading eyes and whispered, "Please, boy, don't leave me here." Samuel didn't think twice. He was barely strong enough to lift the man, but somehow he managed to drag and carry him inch by inch toward a hidden ravine behind his family's cornfield. He stole food from his own pantry, tore cloth from his mother's laundry line, and returned every night to bring water and tend the wound. No one noticed at first until someone did. Confederate scouts began patrolling the area after hearing rumors that a Union survivor might be hiding nearby. One afternoon, while Samuel was cleaning William's wound, he heard dogs barking. He froze. The scouts were close, too close. William whispered, "Go, save yourself." But Samuel refused. He pulled the soldier's arm over his shoulder and dragged him through the thick brush toward an old storm shelter near the riverbank. The sound of boots and voices grew louder, but the ravine swallowed them like a shield. The boy and the soldier hid inside the cramped shelter, barely breathing, while the scouts searched just yards away. The chase lasted nearly an hour. When it was over, Samuel knew the soldier couldn't stay another night. The Confederates would return in greater numbers, and discovery would mean death. Samuel came up with an insane plan. He would guide William through the woods and across the river under the cover of darkness, hoping they could reach a small pocket of Union sympathizers who lived 10 miles north. William didn't believe the boy could navigate the dangerous terrain at night, but Samuel insisted, "I've run these woods since I could walk." The journey was brutal. William kept collapsing, and Samuel kept lifting him. They waded through freezing river water, hid when riders passed along the ridge, and crawled across an open field while gunshots echoed in the distance. By dawn, exhausted and shivering, they reached an abandoned mill where a Union-friendly farmer sometimes left supplies for runaways. The farmer arrived at sunrise and was stunned to find a half-dead Union soldier with a child guarding him like a watchdog. Samuel refused to leave until he was sure William would survive. The farmer sent word to a nearby Union patrol, and William was rescued the next day. Before he left, William placed a small brass button from his uniform into Samuel's hand and said, "Someday, if you ever need help, show this to a man from Ohio. Tell him William Haskins owes you his life." Samuel didn't understand the weight of those words at the time, but he soon would. Years passed, the war ended. Samuel grew up, moved north, and worked odd jobs until he eventually settled in Chicago, where he married and started a small carpentry workshop. Life was quiet until one devastating winter when the Great Chicago Fire of 1871 destroyed everything he owned. With no home, no money, and a wife recovering from illness, Samuel found himself standing in a long charity line, desperate and humiliated. In his pocket, he carried the same brass button he had kept from childhood. When he reached the front of the line, he met a tall man with a commanding voice, handing out vouchers for emergency housing. The man asked Samuel where he was from. "Tennessee," Samuel answered. The man paused, studying him closely. Then Samuel hesitated, reached slowly into his pocket, and held up the brass button. The man's eyes widened. He turned it over in his hand and whispered, "Where did you get this?" Samuel explained everything: the woods, the storm shelter, the river, the escape. When he finished, the man placed his hand on Samuel's shoulder and said, "I am William Haskins. I have spent years trying to find the boy who saved me." The reunion was so unlikely that people around them stopped handing out supplies just to listen. William immediately arranged housing, food, and medical care for Samuel's family. But he didn't stop there. He introduced Samuel to influential business leaders in the city, and within months, Samuel had funding to rebuild his workshop. By 1875, he owned one of the most respected carpentry and furniture businesses in Chicago. But the biggest twist came later. William Haskins entered politics and climbed the ranks rapidly, eventually becoming a trusted advisor to a future U.S. president in the early 1880s. During one cabinet meeting, the president needed emergency construction work for a federal housing project. William insisted the contract go to a man he described as the bravest American I've ever known. That man was Samuel Reeves. Over time, Samuel became a respected figure in national reconstruction efforts. His work helped build dozens of public buildings across the Midwest. And though few people ever learned the deeply personal story behind his success, the truth remained. The life of a poor Tennessee boy changed the fate of a Union soldier during the Civil War, and that soldier later changed the fate of a grateful nation in return. Their bond traveled farther than either of them ever imagined. If someone had told that 10-year-old boy who dragged a wounded enemy soldier through a moonlit forest that he would one day help shape part of America's rebuilding era, he would not have believed it. But history often hides its most astonishing turns inside moments of compassion so small they seem insignificant. One boy saving one soldier, one friendship born from danger, one brass button that survived decades, and one forgotten act of courage that still echoes through the quieter pages of American history, reminding us that sometimes the most extraordinary stories begin with a simple choice to do what is right, even when the world is burning around you.